All right, welcome back to the Move Well podcast. We had a little gap last week. We've had a lot of things going on. We had some really cool stuff happening last week. Had some internal transition, but again, last week was just so much fun, and it kind of ties into what we'll talk about today a little bit. So we've had this idea. Kevin kind of started this idea of like this wellness retreat summit a couple of months ago, probably over like close to a year ago, where basically let's bring people to a site and we basically pour into them. And at the time, we didn't know if it was to the public, to people we already serve. And last week, it was last week, correct? Yeah, we were able to actually do that for the first time. We were able to pour into some of the clients that we currently serve. And it was our inaugural wellness summit. And we got to do some really cool stuff, have a really fun day to just give them some resources to take back to their jobs, to their companies, to their cohorts, answer some questions, get some feedback, get their input, get them outdoors, do like a little lunch and learn session with our awesome dietitian, um, Stephanie. So it was just a great day, and I think today we'll tie into that because we're talking about how all of our other pillars of wellness. There's like 4 to 5 specific impact our mental health, and May being Mental Health Awareness Month. We had my wife on a couple of weeks ago, or about a month and a half ago now, talking about her perspective as a licensed therapist. And this month is just we've been giving a lot more resources than normal to our clients on mental health and how it translates to our day-to-day lives in our other wellness areas. So today's going to be a good one. And what's great about today is we have a good reference point of a resource because Stephanie, our registered dietitian, also our product manager for the MoveWell app, just does a phenomenal job of writing blogs. I mean, every week it's like I look through them and I'm like, I have no feedback. And the one that she provided for us at the beginning of this month on May 2nd was titled How Other Pillars of Wellness Impact Our Mental Health. So I told Kevin earlier, I think this is just a great resource for us to lean into and just talk about and kind of pose some questions and talk through our initial thoughts on those. So I kind of wrote down a list of questions for Kevin and I, and talking about how each area of wellness. So there are 5 different areas that I put down: physical, occupational, social, environmental, and spiritual. How each of those impact or feed into our mental health. And these are posed as very broad questions, but I think we'll just kind of bounce off of each other as we go. But the first one was how physical wellness impacts our mental health. I think this is probably the easiest one for us, which is a good starting point. So you want to kick it off?
Yeah, physical wellness. I mean, we all feel good when we go out and exercise and we get outdoors, we're moving our bodies. We just know intuitively that we feel good. I remember when I first really started doing outdoor sports and stuff and doing more running and biking and stuff like that, I used the concept of, we talk about our dogs, how like it's their natural instinct to get out and run and stuff like that. But it's like, well, humans is kind of our natural instinct too, really. I mean, the generation we're living in is not really how humans have lived for thousands of years. Humans have always historically been outside. They've been moving their bodies. They've been lifting heavy things. They've been climbing things. They've been swimming, whatever. And now our lifestyle is just so different. And so we all kind of know that makes us feel better, but there's a lot of research that shows that too now. I mean, there's a lot of really strong clinical evidence-based research that shows that there's so many great things that happen and occur when we just move our body. And so, yeah, it's huge. I mean, I know for me personally, when I'm having a week where I haven't exercised a lot or just haven't been active, not even necessarily exercise, if I just haven't been active, I haven't been outside playing with my kids and stuff like this, I feel it in the winter sometimes. Like I'm not in a good mood. Like it's just everything in my life seems harder. I let little things get to me more, but I think it's just because I don't feel as good, And so physical health, and physical wellness, I think everybody kind of knows that. But I think the research now just actually points to that, prove that it's actually better for us,
Yeah, I think, what you said perfectly is like you just intuitively feel it. When you're not working out, you're in a funk of your training program, whatever it is, you're going to feel the effects of that mentally. And most of the time, like from my perspective, is like I'm beating myself up. I'm like, wow, I wish I would have worked out today. I missed my workout today, whatever it may be. Then it just contributes to those negative thoughts, and then in return contributes to other areas of your life, whether it's work or your family or relationships, whatever it is. But you can feel those effects significantly.
Have you ever met somebody that wishes they didn't exercise?
Never.
Or like somebody, maybe not even somebody that's exercising, but they just didn't. Like, I feel like everybody wishes they were doing it. I mean, that seems like that's something everybody aspires to do.
Yeah.
So there's something intuitively in us that I think we know that we're made to move our bodies. I don't think we really necessarily want to be sedentary. I know, like, I don't know. I mean, I think there's people that, man, I don't feel like getting off the couch and doing those things, but I think something deep down in them probably wishes they were. I think we all know that, and it's so easy to kind of get in that trap of, like, I was talking to somebody yesterday, one of our clients, and saying, hey man, like, you know, he had a bad couple weeks, kind of got off track with some of his goals and stuff like that. I'm like, you know what? Goals are not a continuous streak. You know, you don't have to just every single day do it to say that you're being consistent or whatever. And then if you don't do it, you just have to quit. Like, you know, if you have a bad couple weeks, it's fine. Just get started again. And it doesn't have to always be so big. You know, I think we all think it's got to be such a huge thing. Moving your body, physical movement, physical wellness is not just going to a gym, lifting weights, walking on a treadmill. Those things are great. We do all those things. That's not necessarily what physical wellness is. You know, it could be going out for a hike, it could be walking in the neighborhood, it could be gardening, it could be playing wiffle ball with your kids, it could be kayaking, it could be getting canoe. I mean, there's a million different ways to do it, and all of them are right depending on what you like. I always say, you know, find something that you enjoy. Like, I enjoy running, so I run a lot. Now, I don't always feel like it, but it is something that I enjoy. And I stick to it, you know. If I was forcing myself all the time to do something I didn't necessarily love physically, I probably would be consistent with it. So just pick out that one thing. I was at a park the other day, and they were doing what is that called? When they have all the swords and the shields and kind of like medieval role playing stuff or something like that. They were doing that. You know, that's not my thing, but it's their thing, and they're moving their bodies. Like, that's great.
Yeah.
Maybe we should do that one day.
Yeah, what like lurking or larking or lerping, something with an lerping, I think is what it's called.
Something like that.
Yeah,
We should have a move all day.
yeah, we should do like a lerping
It's
day.
really, I mean, again, but they were moving, they were using their arms, they were jumping, they were doing all the stuff, they were crawling when their legs got cut off, all the stuff. I mean, so that's mobility, that's movement, that's physical wellness. You know, I don't. Are we touching on environmental wellness too as part of this?
Yeah,
Okay,
jump right in.
I don't want to jump ahead, but you know, so you know, I think really killing two birds with one stone is great. You know, when we look at environmental wellness, physical wellness, anytime that we're outside, that's actually great for our mental health. There's other really good clinical research that shows that just simply getting outdoors helps our state of mind. It helps us be more creative. Can do all kinds of things. And so, you know, for me, I think exercising outdoors is like the best of both worlds. So I would recommend that. There's some really cool stuff that was developed in the early 1900s that kind of like parkour was born out of and stuff like that. But this idea of fitness needed to be as close to nature as possible. And their theory was that you would just, your body would react better, respond better. And none of it was clinical or research-based or anything like that, but they were definitely onto something. So environmental wellness, physical wellness, I think that, you know, combining those two is great. I think being able to hike to a destination and sit outside is great. I think some of the research that we even talked about last month in our some of our content on app for our clients was that spending 60 to 90 minutes outdoors is the kind of the optimal time to unlock creativity. And so again, if you can do something physical while you're doing that, then that's really good. I know for me, some of my greatest ideas all come on during a long run. I was able to run the other day during lunch, and again, it was nice because I was outdoors, and all these business things that I've been thinking of in my head all day, all of a sudden I started kind of coming up with those solutions during that run while I moved my body.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's big. Being able to be outside just goes hand in hand with the physical wellness aspects. We're gonna do some technical switch outs here mid podcast. I'm scurrying around the office.
Is my mic off?
Well, Wade said that. So we have a live agent here tuning in the podcast. So you just pull up your that there, and we're gonna see if we get any better audio feedback. We have some XLR cord issues. So here we have Wade, who's usually on the podcast, serving as our live agent today. So we're gonna see if this improves any of our audio today. But yeah, I think the environmental wellness goes hand in hand with the physical part of it most of the time. I mean, obviously there's gyms, there's different things like that. Before we go, because I'll give my kind of take on environmental wellness too. But I think before that, it's good to give context of like, you don't have to have or always be outdoors to have physical wellness. If we're still kind of, tying the two together. Like Kevin said, you can go to a gym, but you also can just go outside. So if you're going to a gym, that's obviously great too. And it ties right into your mental health. And it can provide a lot of benefits that way. Yeah, I think the environmental wellness though, it just ties right in, because all you have to do, there's apps like AllTrails. I use that app a lot. There's apps like Strava that you can get heat maps is what it's called, where you can see where people are frequently walking, biking, running. So there's a lot of resources that you can kind of tie in the physical movement with the outdoor environmental piece of this all. But it all ties right in. And again, this all goes back to just how it affects you mentally. And like the point you made earlier, Kevin, was like, I've never met anybody that's like, no, I just don't ever want to work out. Like nobody's ever made that comment. People all the time say, I wish I had the time. I wish I made the time. I wish I did work out. But nobody's ever made the comment of, I wish I don't ever want to work out. And I think that that goes a long way. And it's like something you don't think about, kind of reverse engineering the way that you think.
Wade, how's my mic?
How we sounding, Wade? I just sent Wade a message saying, hey, how we sounding?
Yeah, and also on the environmental wellness, I know we focus a lot on the outside, the outdoors piece of that, just because we feel so strong about that from a wellness standpoint, that just getting outdoors is just so good for us mentally. That's not really the full spectrum or scope of environmental wellness. It's really how you're responding to the environment that you're in. So that could extend to your home environment, your office environment, all those kind of things, and trying to set up your surroundings in a way that positively affect you from a wellness standpoint. I mean, I know for me, like when my house is cluttered and messy and all that kind of stuff, I feel stressed, I feel anxious, all those kind of things. So environmental wellness is a lot larger than just getting outside. However, that's kind of the area that we probably focus on the most, just because I feel and we know that our current state is, we just all spend so much time indoors typically.
Yeah.
Unless you have an outdoor type job, and most of us don't anymore. And so it's just good to get outdoors and to be in that space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, the next one is quite a bit different and kind of a totally different topic, but occupational wellness. Mm-hmm. And this is one that we talk about a lot with our clients, and we hope that they see and they read, because, our business, our occupations are providing better wellness for them, which ultimately is tied to their job, because the way our company is structured is that we provide wellness to companies' employees. So one thing that we say all the time is, I think a lot of times employees associate MoveWell and their wellness program with their job, but trying to be creative in ways that we can have them look at MoveWell and their wellness program as, this is just another resource for me to be well. And so I think occupational wellness goes a long way too. And I think we do a great job here providing that flexibility in the environment to where people have a good ratio of, they feel like they can take care of themselves, but they also understand the job functions, things like that. So talk on that, because, a lot of times we have different resources and blogs and mindful minutes that we do every month that provide people resources like this. But I kind of want you to talk through that, because I feel like this is more so your bread and butter, coming from like and a little bit of like the ergonomist background.
Yeah.
Did I say that right? Ergonomist.
There you go.
Ergonomist. Ergonomist. Ergonomist.
But I think it's kind of cool. I mean, I know there's and maybe me included, some of the younger generation coming up. We like to complain about kind of the new era of employees and stuff like that. And I think every generation does that. As you're getting older, more mature in your career, you always hear, oh man, this new generation coming up has no hope, this and that. But I would say I'm actually really encouraged by kind kind of the newer workforce that's entering the world coming out of college is because I think they are kind of looking for the right stuff where maybe in the past a lot of people didn't do this. They would just take a job, and if they were miserable in it, they would just stay there. But I think now, like the younger generation that I'm seeing is really looking for a company that aligns with their values. And I think that's important. And what they're really looking for is like, what's the mission of this company? And the research on that shows that is very, very important. It's important for everybody, but the younger generation, which generation? Is it Z?
I have no clue.
Whatever the 22 to 27-year-olds are, that age gap, they are more than anyone looking for a company that really aligns with their mission, their values, and they're looking for a little bit more out of their company rather than just punching the clock. Now, I will say that your company, your job is never going to give you the ultimate fulfillment. We can get on a whole nother topic on, there's probably bigger things in your life from a purpose and value standpoint that you should probably be getting that value. However, you can get a lot of that from your job, and it's important to have coworkers that aren't exactly like you, but maybe you can all align around something that's in common, and align around a mission of the company that you all kind of believe in. And I think that's one thing we've done a really good job at MoveWell is we are very, very mission driven. We're very, very mission driven, so much so that I think we spend more time thinking on that than we do some of the business stuff, because we are just so dedicated to our mission. And I think because of that, we've attracted a really good team of people. And we're very open about what our mission is, what our pillars are, what our values are. We post those on jobs, we post those on our website, we talk about it on a podcast, put it on our social media. I mean, everybody kind of knows what we're about. And I think that's important. And so I think it's important, when you're considering a career, finding something that aligns with what your vision and your purpose is. Because I think for a long time, people would just take a job just because they needed the money. There's nothing wrong with that either. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but I think you'll be more fulfilled if you're aligned with a company that really does a good job of saying what their mission is, and it lines up with what you're about. Now, the other piece of that is, you're going to do things, even if you have the best job in the world, you're going to do things that you don't love and enjoy. I do stuff every day that I don't love and enjoy. We've been stuffing envelopes today.
All day today.
That's not necessarily what I love and enjoy. But it does feed into what our mission is. And so it's allowing us to connect with more people and things like that. When I started working a real job, so I was a minor league baseball player. I was getting paid to play baseball. And once that ended, I had to take a real job. And I was at a physical therapy clinic as a technician. And I was doing all the non-glamorous parts of a PT clinic. I was doing the laundry. I was cleaning all the equipment, the tables. I was taking out the trash. I was sweeping. I was mopping. I mean, all the kind of the grunt work that kept the clinic running. And I was very unappreciative of that job. I was really negative about the things I had to do. Probably wasn't the most joyful worker, I guess. I was interacting with, probably 20 to 50 patients a day. And probably wasn't the most outgoing or talkative technician. And then one day it just kind of clicked to me, with me. And I think part of it was when I changed my focus and we went down to a one-income family, and all of a sudden this job mattered a lot more. I'm like, man, I got to start taking pride in the things I do and be a joyful worker. And even in the folding the towels and taking out the trash, I need to do the best I can at that. I need to fold the towels the best way I can, take out the trash in the right time, really hit home on the trash. That's your job here at our office. I mean, it's full taking today. Out the trash, it just will change your life.
Yeah.
Right? But no, I just started really paying attention to the little things. But the biggest part is I started realizing the power of those individuals that were walking through the door that I had the opportunity to spend time with, talk to them, build a relationship with them, and hopefully be a positive impact in their day. And people are coming to us, 20 to 50 people that I was interacting with. Most of them were all in pain because they maybe had knee replacements, shoulder repairs, different things. And so they're coming to you, they're in pain, they're hurting, they might be confused, they might be frustrated because their healing's not going the way that they wanted to, and all of a sudden I realized, wow, I can be kind of this light to them. I can give them joy and try to just impact the day in a positive way.
Mhm.
And then thinking about how many people would walk through that door every single week. So we're probably looking at, I don't know, probably 100 people, 100 to 150 people a week that I would come in contact with in a very close proximity, and a lot of times be one-on-one with them in a private setting. If I can impact them and touch them in a positive way, and then maybe they'll do the same to somebody else, and all of a sudden it's got this huge effect that we wouldn't have had before. Or sorry, Wade just keeps messaging me, and Wade, you are distracting me
nonstop.
You business stuff that's popping up on my watch. Talk about occupational wellness.
Goodness gracious!
I can't even focus here. No, I'm taking this watch off. Dang it! All right, Wade is no longer going to distract me. But yeah, I was like, man, there's a movie about that. It's probably you're too young to remember it, but there was a good movie. It was called The Something Effect. But basically, you do one nice thing and it goes on. There's a term for that. I cannot remember it. But I was like, I had the opportunity to do that with a lot of people, and all of a sudden, these things that I took for granted or that I didn't like or I was negative about started having purpose. And it started helping me understand kind of the purpose of my life and what I wanted to do, what I wanted to accomplish, and it was amazing. And all of a sudden, I started enjoying the job. And all it was, I didn't change. The job never changed. I didn't change anything that I was doing. I just changed me.
Mm-hmm.
I changed the way I was perceiving things, the way I was approaching things. And I started having joy with that job. And honestly, that job led to this. I wouldn't be doing this today without that job. So I'm really appreciative of that job. And I'm appreciative that I had to do all those kind of grunt work things.
Yeah.
Because I have no problem doing those things now. You know, I clean the bathrooms every Monday. You know, that's my job here. I don't care. It's fine. It's just part of it, you know. So anyways, I was able to understand occupational wellness and realize, wow, I can my job can give me purpose, and I can also give purpose to other people through my job. And it just radically shifted my life, my mindset, my approach, and again, got me to a point where I am in my life now that I wouldn't have been if I didn't appreciate that job more.
Yeah. Well, I was looking for this while we were talking about salary is important, you said, but it's not everything. And I actually saw this post on LinkedIn the other day, so I went back and found it. And it's a sign in I'll show you, Kevin. It's like a sign in a glass window, basically. And it says a salary increase makes you happy once a year, but a healthy workplace keeps you happy throughout the year.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's such a good read on that.
Yeah, and I've referenced on this podcast before a book by Malcolm Gladwell. I can't remember which book it is, but Malcolm Gladwell wrote this. And there's some research that showed after $100,000, they studied a bunch of wealthy individuals. After $100,000 annually salary, they weren't any happier. So a guy that was making $500,000 wasn't any happier than the person that was making $100,000. Wade has recently read a book and cited another study that showed that was $50,000.
Oh my gosh!
So $50,000 was the threshold for happiness, and people making more than $50,000, it didn't increase your happiness whatsoever. So it does show, money is important. You have to pay your bills, but I think having a toxic workplace or a place that just grinds you to death, but you make a lot of money, it's just a really hard place to be. And I do think, going back to, I think the younger generation has kind of seen maybe their parents strive really hard to give them all the physical things and all the
materialistic
things and solve the stress that causes their families. And I don't know that the younger generation coming to the workforce is necessarily looking for that. They're more looking for a job that's going to bring them joy and that is a good work environment and people they get along with, which I think is a good positive shift. You know, I think so. So. Occupational wellness is a really interesting topic to me, honestly, just because we're in it constantly with a variety of workforces, seeing all the different types of workers and stuff like that. We're dealing with workers every single day. So it's kind of cool.
Well, and I think we get a different insight too. As a business to business company, most of the time you're providing a service of printing materials for them or providing transportation services if it's a really corporate position. But I think we're in a unique spot too, because we're providing wellness and things that help them feel good and hopefully promote them to feel better in their workplace. So I think our perspective is a lot different too, and just super unique. So I think it allows us to care a little bit more and maybe be a little bit more invested in that. But it obviously, even from our perspectives, occupational wellness, it goes directly hand in hand with how we're feeling mentally. And so I think that's huge. But yeah, we kind of already touched on the environmental wellness piece, but the last two that I want to touch on is social and spiritual. And I think they can kind of tie in together, but I
Yeah.
think starting with social is important.
Yeah.
And you're a big advocate for that too, like social
Yeah.
wellness and how, and you always use the Donald Miller book. What is it? Or
There's Hero on a Mission.
Hero on a Mission is with the one that kind of introduced me to the concept that you use in a lot of your talks of having a guide and being the hero of your own story, things like that. And I think that kind of ties into the social wellness because it involves you just associating with other people.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love your take on social wellness.
Yeah. So I homeschooled growing up. Not all homeschoolers were shy, but I was. My kids are homeschooled and they're very social. But I was a very shy individual. My brothers would go to a homeschool, and I did eventually when I got older, a homeschool tutorial co-op thing once a week. It was in Nashville. We'd drive an hour to get there. I was probably I started there when I think I was 12 or 13 years old. So this is like when I was 10 to 12 years old, probably. They met at a church every single week. And we had this 1996 Dodge Caravan, and we drive it up there in Nashville, and they would go in. My mom would watch study hall, so kids that didn't have a class, I guess they had a period break. There's some notes at the study hall. It was in the gym, and there, so some of them would study, some of them would just play basketball. My mom wasn't a very strict study hall monitor, I guess, but so I would sit with her and I'd bring my homeschool books and I would do it. But the cool thing about homeschooling is still this way is it's like there's like a lot of different ages all kind of mashed into one. It's almost like that one room schoolhouse kind of approach. And so like, kids that were 17 years old come talk to me and I was not like, hey, you guys want to play basketball with us? You want to do this? You want to do this? And I was so nervous socially, I just couldn't handle it. So eventually I would sit out. I asked my mom, can I just go sit in the van? So she parked the van right next to the gym.
Oh my
I would
gosh,
sit out there for 6 hours.
that is crazy.
I could not handle the social interaction of it just because I was so insecure with myself and I was shy and stuff. And there's a time to push your kids, and there's a time I think to kind of let the foot off the gas. And I think that was one of the times my mom just said, "Okay, I'm not."
Yeah, definitely.
She also made me do speeches and all this stuff, which I hated then. I love that she did that now, but I just really struggled socially, and it's very isolating. And so I spent a large majority of my life just really isolating myself, and it wasn't healthy, I'll tell you that. And now that I'm older, I just realized the importance of gathering. And maybe that's why I love it so much now, because I realized eventually like how much it helped me once I kind of got over that stuff.
You've seen both sides.
Gathering people together, like I just realized how important it is, because you just don't know what people are going through in their head. And I don't think anybody probably realized I was insecure, shy, and all stuff. I mean, I was a great athlete. Like I was very confident on any athletic thing I would do, and I'd stand out and all that kind of stuff. That was the only place I felt confident. Anything outside of that, I was terrified, So I think I can really relate to people that are struggling socially, because that's me. That was me. But I started realizing at some point, man, there's a lot of power in just getting people together. And I think part of it was watching our patients in the clinic when I was a technician. They'd just be struggling so bad because they were just isolated. They were alone at their house. They were trying to heal, and they just were really struggling. And the little bit of interaction they would have at our clinic, 1 or 3 days a week for an hour at a time, was just like the highlight of their week. A lot of these people lived alone, stuff like that, or they're elderly. So I just started realizing the importance of people, relationships. We built this company. Our 4th pillar is relationship driven. That's such an important part of our company now. But yeah, and just bringing people together. And so now we do a lot of things. We're trying to build this community online. We're trying to build community in our app. We're trying to build community with our clients. Last week's Wellness Summit was an effort of that. Of like, let's bring people together from all different companies that we work with and talk wellness and get them to connect with each other. We do workouts every single week here. We do the Hot Rod Ultra, which is a great running event, but really it's this celebration of bringing people together and pushing ourselves and celebrating movement and sharing a common goal. And then the research that came out a couple years ago, the government came out, the U.S. Surgeon General had a report called Epidemic of Loneliness and Isolation, and really validated everything that I'd seen in the wild of people that are lonely. Well, they're 40% more likely to have a heart attack, they're 40% more likely to have a stroke.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's the same as smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. It's the same as drinking 7 to 10 alcoholic beverages a day. just being lonely and isolated. And so if we're talking wellness, we're talking about bringing people, talking about trying to get people to feel better, be the best version of themselves. They have to be around people. Human beings are communal creatures. We have to be around people. We are not designed to be isolated. And I think that some of the dangers of modern technology and social media and things like that is that we feel that we're a part of something on our devices, but we're actually not. We're still alone and isolated, and it's this artificial community. And there are some real community things that come from that. So I'm not saying there's, but I think a lot of times we can feel that we're interacting with those people. You haven't seen these people in years. You just been scrolling and seeing pictures of them. You know, it's very different than actually calling somebody, meeting them for lunch, meeting them for coffee, going for a walk with somebody. That is so important. We are made to be in community with each other, and I think that's one of the
responsibility to go all in on that. And it's not easy. It's not something that's just going to come natural to you, but it's something that you're required and obligated to do. And I'm putting some strong language out there, but I just believe that we're all given really unique gifts and talents, and if we don't use that, we'll never really know who we were created to be. And that's a shame. Like I'd never want to get to the end of my life and think, man, I know I was really called to do this thing and I just never pursued it. And I would say many people I talk to kind of know what maybe they're called to. Maybe it's this yearning in their heart. It's something they've always wanted to do. I think most people actually understand it, but they distract themselves because they don't actually want to pursue it. And so we're very good, and I am as well. We're very good at distracting ourselves or putting things off that we know that really our life should be about. I don't know why it's so hard to pursue those things. I don't know.
Well,
but it is, and it's so scary, man. It's hard,
Well, it is, and I think it's always easy, like when you're in a really good place. Like I was telling my wife yesterday evening, we were like out at dinner, and I was like, I just feel like when I'm in a really good place in one area, like I see the faults in all the other areas. And she was like, I think you beat yourself up too much. And I was like, well, I think it's just like I see when I'm in a good spot in one area where I've been distracting myself in other areas maybe. And so when you remove the distractions from your life, I think it just gives you more clarity, and kind of in turn, depending on who you are and what your past is, like it can kind of give you more anxiety or more like scaredness into pursuing the things you need to do, because it's like, oh gosh, when I quit distracting myself, I have to face a lot of things that I realized I was lacking or whatever. And Emily kind of talked about that on the podcast.
Did great. I loved her take on that.
Yeah, and we had just talked about that the week prior too. And I've been experiencing a lot of that lately, because I feel that my faith has been really strong in a lot of areas. And in turn, I think I'm feeling a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? A lot of conviction in other areas. And I'm like, oh gosh, even if it's not, for me being a Christian, it's like not necessarily sin, but just like things I'm not proud of. I'm like, man, I really wish I would have handled this differently, or did this differently, or had this conversation differently, whatever it may be. So I think it's also good from just the free will human perception to give yourself some grace of like, when you do start improving and striving towards your purpose, like you're going to feel the conviction of the things that maybe you've lacked in before. And I think that's important to know.
It is. It's like the analogy of like cleaning out your closet. Like,
oh my gosh,
when you clean a closet out, and a closet could look decent, and you start pulling it out, and it's just stuff everywhere, and it's messy, and it's this and that. But eventually, you get it back to where you want it to go. And so that process is just like, it's hard, it's painful. I go through it all the time, and it's like it's not fun. But then what's on the other side of that is really powerful. And I think that's where the mental health piece comes in. It's like if you're actively working on those things, you are going to, while it may be hard temporarily, if you can kind of keep the long-term vision and the purpose in sight, it's going to make it worth it. And so yeah, that's going to give you a lot of improved mental health for sure, because you're being more genuine, you're being true to who you are, you're leaning into your calling. There's just a lot of freedom in that. And I mean, I want to get to the point in my life to where everybody knows everything about me, like everything. And I will own that. I gave a pretty big talk not that long ago, and I started out by saying I'm a weak and insecure person, and I am, and I want people to know that about me. And there's a lot of freedom in that, of just owning that. You know? There's a lot of things in my life that I've just owned I'm not proud of, and I just gotta be real with myself. And it's nobody's fault either. I mean, I think
Right.
I've always been, especially when I was younger, very good at blaming other people for my flaws. And
Mhm.
yes, maybe I did things in response to what they did or whatever, but I was the one that did them. And
Right.
so being able to own my actions is really powerful too. And so anyways, getting back to spiritual wellness, I'm a Christian, you're a Christian. That's where I see a lot of my purpose, obviously, is my Christian faith. And I've really adopted, and I've been saying it a lot lately. My personal mission statement is the quote by Saint Irenaeus, is the glory of God is man fully alive. And so I feel that my mission is to help people see that
Yeah.
and be fully alive. And so if we really understand what our purpose is and actually pursue the things that get us closer to living out that purpose, then we're going to be fully alive. And there's a lot of power in that.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's scary about living a purpose-driven life is it may require you to suffer. It may require you to give up things that make you comfortable. It may require you to give up money, give up wealth. It may require you to gain those things. I mean, it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
But it's not, whatever that thing is, if you're pursuing it, you're not going to maintain a state of homeostasis. What I mean is, like, you're not going to be comfortable you're not going to just stay the same. It's going to require growth, and that's hard. So you've got to get used to things changing a bit. Nobody likes to change. Everybody wants to
No.
stay constant.
Yeah.
I do too.
Yeah.
And so, but I don't know. I will see. I'm only 38. I'm 37, almost 38, and who knows what's on the other side of that. But I think the hard stuff I'm going through now, hopefully when I get to the end of my life, that I'll be proud that I pursued it.
Yeah. A couple of thoughts I had from like what you said before we wrap up was, well, first off, there's the song that just came out. It's by Carrie Underwood and Ben Fuller. It's called "If It Was Up to Me." It basically explains what you were just saying. Like, if it was up to me, I'd take the easy road, but it's not up to me. And so by taking the easy road, I know that things would be much easier. But by taking the hard road, or like the road that life has given me or that God has given me, it's going to be more difficult, but it's going to provide me a lot more insight, a lot more practical understanding, and things like that. And then the other pieces was that the social wellness and spiritual wellness tie-in piece is that I think, like, just surrounding yourself with people that maybe like ideas or topics you're interested in goes a long way. Like, if you're like, man, I've kind of thought about this, maybe this is something that I'm really feeling called to do, that feels like my purpose. Well, Kevin does that. Let me just see if he wants to grab coffee.
Yeah.
Like, just ask that person to get coffee. And I think that's part of it too, is like, it's going to be uncomfortable and it's going to feel weird, and it's going to feel completely out of your comfort zone, but it can go a long way. That one cup of coffee could be that person inviting you to come shadow them at the office or come check out their office space. And then it was like, yeah, we're hiring. And that goes back to occupational, whatever.
You
So,
never know.
it
They
all
always-
comes back full circle.
I was just, as you're talking, I was like, I want to get comfortable being uncomfortable, and I'm not there yet.
Mhm.
I want to get comfortable and like pushing myself, I
Yeah.
guess. And I don't know that I'm there yet,
Right.
honestly, but that's what I'm kind of seeking to.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's the hardest part, is just like understanding that it's going to be a sufferfest
Yeah.
a lot of times. And that's just part of life. And I think all areas of wellness kind of tie into that. And it all just reflects right back to your mental health. Because, I mean, part of it is the uncomfortability of, I got to get uncomfortable for the next 3 to 4 to 5 days. And a lot of times when you make a big change, it's like, give yourself a week, get through the first week. Well, it's day by day. And then when you get through that first week, like, okay, I'm
Yeah.
feeling a little bit of positivity here. And then after that, it's like, and then the second side of it is like, okay, I'm feeling really comfortable. And this is not new to me. So then, like, how do I deal with this?
Right.
And so I think just being able to like understand both of those feelings, like both sides of that, is really important. But yeah, it all comes back to mental health. And I think Steph does a great job breaking that down in this article,
Yep.
in this blog. And so I'll link that to the audio version and YouTube live version of this podcast. You guys can check it out. And she has some other resources linked in there too. So anything else you want to add? You feel good about where we're at? Yeah, this is good. So thank you all for listening. If you're streaming, thank you for listening to the audio version, and we'll catch you next week.